The council hall on Vora Prime was never silent. It was the heart of galactic politics. Leaders from every corner of the stars met here to keep the peace. The hall was wide and bright, built from black stone and glowing crystals. Flags from over 50 civilizations hung from the high walls. Adrian Cross stood at the back of the hall, watching the meeting begin. He had stood here many times before. As Earth's diplomatic envoy, this place had been his second home for the last 10 years. He had helped settle trade deals, border disputes, and peace talks. Adrian believed in the council. It was not perfect, but it was better than war. Today felt different. The air was heavy. The human ambassador, Julia Rains, stood on the central platform. She looked calm, but Adrian noticed her hands were shaking. She took a deep breath and pressed a small device on the podium. Her voice echoed across the hall. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," she began. "I come today with a message from the United Earth government." Adrian leaned forward, curious. He had not heard anything about this speech. No one on Earth had warned him. Julia paused. She looked down, as if she did not want to read the words. Then she spoke again. "Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from all council duties. We are stepping down from leadership. We will no longer take part in council affairs." The hall fell silent. Not a single voice spoke. It was as if time had stopped. Adrian felt his heart sink. Julia's voice shook as she finished. "We thank you for the years of partnership. This decision is final. Earth wishes you all peace in the future." Without another word, she stepped down. Two security officers in dark uniforms walked with her toward the exit. Adrian moved quickly, pushing through the crowd. "Julia," he called out. She stopped for just a second. Their eyes met. Adrian could see the regret on her face. "I'm sorry, Adrian," she whispered. "Orders from Earth. I wasn't allowed to tell anyone." And then she was gone. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the shouting began. "This is betrayal," yelled a counselor from the Irani Empire. "They are leaving us to fall apart," another shouted. "Earth's fleets kept the peace. Who will stop the border wars now?" Adrian stood frozen in the middle of it all. The voices rose higher, full of fear and anger. Old enemies began pointing fingers. The fragile peace they had worked so hard to build was breaking in front of his eyes. He knew he should leave. Earth had walked away. His job was over. But as he watched the council fall into chaos, something inside him refused to give up. Adrian clenched his fists. He could not go back to Earth. Not yet. He stepped forward toward the arguing leaders. He raised his voice, trying to bring calm, but no one listened. The fear had already taken hold. Deep down, Adrian knew this was only the beginning. Adrian Cross sat in his quarters on Vora Prime, staring at the blank screen of his communicator. For the last 3 days, he had sent message after message to Earth. All were ignored. No one answered. No one explained why they had walked away. He rubbed his tired eyes. His uniform hung on the chair next to him, untouched since the day of the announcement. He felt like an outsider now, as if he didn't belong to any world. Still, he knew one thing for certain. He could not leave. Not while the council was falling apart. Adrian stood and left his quarters. The halls of Aura Prime were different now. Where there had once been laughter and movement, there was silence. Delegates stayed in their rooms, holding private talks or packing their belongings. Many feared the council was finished. He walked toward the Solari wing. The Solari were peaceful beings of light and energy. They had always been Earth's strongest allies. Adrian hoped they still believed in peace. The Solari representative, Leora, greeted him at the door. Her form shimmered like soft, glowing mist. "Adrian," she said in her gentle voice, "I wondered if you would come." He nodded. "We need to talk." Leora led him into the chamber. A few other council members had gathered. Ambassador Joro of the Kethari, a lizard-like species known for their wisdom, and Rena of the Alkani, a small but loyal trading race. "We were just discussing the situation," Leora explained. Joro leaned forward, his golden eyes full of concern. "The council is splitting faster than we feared." Adrian sat down with them. "We can't let that happen. You all know what will come next if we fall apart. Every border war will start again. The strong will crush the weak." "We know," Rena said softly. "But without Earth, who can lead?" Adrian shook his head. Leadership isn't the answer anymore. We need unity, not power. We need to stand together as equals. The others looked at each other, unsure. Adrian felt their fear. It hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Then the door slid open. Koresh Vern entered the chamber with 2 Yali soldiers. His sharp eyes scanned the room. He wore his black military uniform with pride, the silver crest of the Yali Dominion shining on his chest. Adrian stood slowly. He had faced Koresh in debates before, but this time felt different. Koresh looked too calm, too sure of himself. Ambassador Cross, Koresh said with a small smile. Still trying to hold the pieces together? Adrian kept his voice steady. Someone has to. Koresh stepped closer. The Council is weak without Earth. Everyone knows it, but the Yali Dominion is ready to protect what remains. We offer our strength to keep order. Leora stood. By taking control, Koresh's smile widened. By bringing stability. No more wasted talks. No more weakness. Adrian's jaw tightened. You mean rule by fear? Koresh's voice dropped lower. Fear keeps the stars from burning. You know that, Cross. He turned to the others. Think about it. Your people will be safe under Yali protection. With that, Koresh left, his soldiers following like shadows. The room fell silent again. Adrian felt his heart pounding in his chest. He's already moving, Jorah whispered. He's using fear to take control. Adrian knew it was true. Koresh had been waiting for this moment. He wanted the council to fall apart, so he could rebuild it in his own image, ruled by the Yali Dominion. We have to stop him, Adrian said firmly. But how? Rena asked. Without Earth, we have no power to fight him. Adrian stood and looked at each of them. Power isn't the answer, he said. But if we stand together, if we show the others they don't have to be afraid, we can stop this. Leora nodded slowly. You have our support, Adrian. But you must move quickly. Adrian knew she was right. Time was running out. Koresh's shadow was already spreading across the council. He had to find a way to bring the others back to the table. He had to show them that unity was still possible. Adrian clenched his fists. He would not let fear win. The council chambers, once the heart of peace, now felt like a war zone. Day by day, more members argued, accused, and threatened one another. Adrian Cross stood among them, watching the council fall apart. Factions had already started to break away. The Irani Empire withdrew their fleets from the neutral zone. The Tormat clans pulled their ambassadors from Vora Prime. Even smaller members like the Vexery began sealing their borders, preparing for war. Adrian felt the weight pressing on his shoulders. He had failed to calm them. No one trusted words anymore. They only saw weakness, and Koresh Vern was using that weakness like a weapon. Koresh moved through the council like a shark among smaller fish. He offered security agreements to frighten members. His soldiers walked the halls, their black armor a constant reminder of Yali power. Adrian had seen this kind of fear before, on Earth during the Great Unrest. He knew how quickly fear could turn friends into enemies. He knew what happened when people stopped talking and started building walls. One morning, as Adrian walked toward the communications wing, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see Rena, the Alkani delegate, hurrying to catch up. Adrian, she said quietly, looking around to make sure no one heard her. There's news, bad news. Adrian's heart tightened. What happened? Rena lowered her voice. 2 colonies on the edge of Kethri space were attacked last night. Ships with no clear markings. Both sides are blaming each other. Adrian felt the blood drain from his face. A border conflict? She nodded. It's spreading fast. The Kethri believe the Irani are behind it. The Irani say the Kethri started it. Both sides are moving fleets. Adrian cursed under his breath. This was exactly what Koresh wanted. Conflict and fear, making everyone desperate for protection. I need to speak to Jorah, Adrian said. Where is he? His quarters, Rena answered. But Adrian, there's something else. Adrian stopped. What? I overheard Yali soldiers talking in the lower levels, she whispered. They said the attacks were staged. Koresh is behind it. Adrian's mind raced. It made sense. The attackers had no markings. No one could prove who was responsible. It was the perfect trick to start panic. He thanked Rena and hurried to find Joro. When Adrian reached Joro's quarters, the Kethri ambassador was already on edge. His claws tapped on the table as he read reports. Adrian, Joro said, his voice tight. We have to act. My people are ready to strike back. Adrian stepped in front of him. No, that's what Koresh wants. Joro frowned. What are you saying? Adrian leaned closer. The attacks, they weren't from the Irani. I believe Koresh staged them. He wants you to fight. He wants to break the council completely. Joro stared at him, doubt in his golden eyes. Do you have proof? Adrian shook his head. Not yet, but I'm going to find it. You have to trust me. Please, hold your fleets back. Joro stood, towering over Adrian. For a long moment, the Kethri said nothing. Then, slowly he nodded. You have 2 days, Joro said. After that, I cannot hold my people any longer. Adrian felt a wave of pressure crush him. 2 days. That was all he had to stop a full galactic war. He left Joro's quarters and made his way back toward the central hall. As he walked, his communicator buzzed. It was a secure message from Leora. We need to meet, her voice said. I have something you need to see. Adrian hurried to the Solari wing, hope rising in his chest. Maybe this was the break he needed. When he arrived, Leora stood waiting with a strange figure beside her. The figure wore a dark cloak, the hood hiding their face. But Adrian could see the silver mark on their sleeve, the crest of the Yali Dominion. Who is this? Adrian asked. Leora stepped aside. The figure pulled back their hood, revealing the face of a Yali officer. The officer looked around nervously before speaking. My name is Kai, the officer said softly. I serve under Koresh, but I cannot let this continue. Adrian's heart pounded. What do you have? Kai held up a data crystal. Proof. Koresh ordered the attacks. He plans to use fear to take control of the council. Adrian took the crystal carefully. This was it, the evidence he needed. The only thing that could stop Koresh. Why are you helping us? Adrian asked. Kai lowered his head. Because I believe in peace, not conquest. Adrian nodded slowly. For the first time in days, he felt a small spark of hope. We have one chance to stop this, Adrian said. Leora and Kai nodded in agreement. Adrian knew what he had to do next. He had to confront Koresh in front of the entire council. And he had to win. Adrian Cross stared at the data crystal in his hand. This small object could save the council, or destroy it. He felt the weight of it in his palm. His mind raced through all the things that could go wrong. What if no one believed him? What if Koresh found out and silenced Kai before they could speak? He pushed those fears aside. He had to act. Leora, glowing softly in the dim light, placed a hand on Adrian's shoulder. You don't have much time, she whispered. Adrian nodded. I know. The next council session is tomorrow. He looked at Kai, the Yali officer standing by the door. Kai's face was pale, his eyes full of fear. He kept glancing over his shoulder as if expecting someone to burst in and take him away. You're risking everything by coming to me, Adrian said. Kai nodded slowly. I know, but I can't watch this happen. Koresh, he wants to turn the council into a military machine. He doesn't care who gets hurt. Adrian tightened his grip on the crystal. You did the right thing. But doubt lingered in Adrian's mind. This crystal held only digital records. Messages, orders, troop movements. Words on a screen. Would that be enough to convince the council? Or would Koresh simply call it a lie? Adrian knew Koresh was a master of twisting words. He could stand in front of the entire council and make a lie sound like the truth. Adrian needed more than just files. He needed someone the council would believe. He turned to Kai. You have to speak with me in front of the council. They need to hear the truth from you. Kai's face went pale. If I speak, I'll be marked as a traitor. I won't survive. Adrian felt the weight of Kai's fear. He knew what he was asking. But without Kai's voice, the evidence might not be enough. I can protect you, Adrian said. We can get you off Vora Prime after the meeting. You'll be safe. Kai shook his head. You can't promise that. Adrian didn't argue. Kai was right. No place in the galaxy was truly safe from Koresh's reach. Still, Kai looked down at his hands, shaking slightly. He took a deep breath and lifted his eyes to meet Adrian's. I'll do it, Kai whispered. Adrian felt relief and worry all at once. He knew how dangerous this would be. Thank you, Adrian said. We'll face him together. That night, Adrian couldn't sleep. He sat in his quarters, reviewing the data again and again. Every file, every order, every transmission from Koresh's command. It was all there. Plans to stage the border attacks. Lists of ships sent to the Kethri border. Orders to make it look like an Irani attack. Adrian felt sick as he read. Koresh had started a war with lies, and the council had almost walked right into his trap. The next morning, Adrian dressed carefully. He put on his diplomatic uniform, the symbol of Earth still shining on his chest. Even if his government had left, he would not. He met Kai and Leora outside the council chambers. Kai wore a simple cloak, trying to stay hidden as long as possible. Leora placed a soft hand on Adrian's arm. "Are you ready?" she asked. "No," Adrian said honestly, "but we don't have a choice." They entered the council chambers together. The hall was filled with tension. Leaders sat in tight groups, whispering to their aides. Some stared coldly at Adrian as he walked to the center platform. Koresh stood across the room, his arms crossed, watching with sharp, cold eyes. Adrian took the podium. The room fell silent. "I have come today with evidence," Adrian began. His voice echoed through the chamber. Evidence that the border attacks were not started by the Kethri or the Irani. They were staged by Koresh Vern and the Yali Dominion. Shouts filled the chamber at once. Koresh stepped forward, raising his voice above the noise. "More lies from a failed envoy," Koresh said, his voice calm but sharp. "Earth has abandoned you, Cross. You have no authority here." Adrian held up the data crystal. "This contains the truth. Order signed by Koresh himself. Proof of the staged attacks." Koresh laughed coldly. "Anyone can fake a file, Cross. Who here will believe the word of man whose own world walked away?" Adrian turned to Kai. The room went silent again as the Yali officer stepped forward, pulling back his hood. "My name is Kai," the officer said, his voice shaking but strong. "I serve under Koresh, and I can confirm what Adrian Cross says is true. I saw the orders myself. Koresh staged the attacks. He plans to take control of the council through fear." Gasps filled the chamber. Leaders stood from their seats, some shouting, others staring in shock. Koresh's face darkened. "You are a traitor, Kai," he growled. Kai stood taller. "No, Garis. You betrayed the council." Adrian knew the moment was now or never. He placed the data crystal into the central projector. The files appeared in the air for all to see. Clear, undeniable proof. The council erupted in chaos once again. But this time, something had changed. Leaders turned on Koresh. Accusations flew toward him, not Adrian. Adrian felt the tide shifting. Koresh's soldiers moved toward Kai, but council guards blocked their path. The chamber filled with noise and movement, but Adrian knew the truth had been heard. Koresh was exposed, but the battle was not over yet. The council chambers had never been louder. Leaders stood from their seats. Voices filled the air, some shouting in anger, others in shock. Adrian Cross stood in the middle of it all, breathing hard. The data crystal's files floated in the air above him, showing Koresh's plans in plain sight. Staged attacks, false reports, orders from Koresh himself. Adrian looked toward Koresh, waiting for him to break, but the Yali commander only stood taller. His face showed no fear. Instead, he raised his hand to quiet the room. His voice, deep and steady, cut through the noise. "False data," Koresh said calmly. "Lies crafted by a desperate man whose world has already turned its back on this council." The shouting grew louder again, but Koresh kept speaking, his voice strong. "This data is nothing but a trick, created by a man who stands here without a flag, without a people behind him. Earth has abandoned us all. Now he tries to drag us into more lies." Adrian felt the anger rise in his chest. He stepped forward. "You've manipulated this council for weeks, Koresh. You've spread fear. You've pushed weaker members into your so-called protection." Koresh laughed coldly. "I gave them security when Earth ran away. You gave them nothing but empty words." Adrian gripped the edge of the podium. His voice shook, not from fear, but from the weight of everything that had led to this moment. Earth may be gone, Adrian said, louder this time, but the council still stands. You are the one trying to tear it apart. Koresh narrowed his eyes. And who will stop me? You? You stand alone. Adrian turned to the council members. He raised his voice so all could hear. I do not stand alone, he said. Look around you. Many of you have already started to leave. You have let fear drive you apart. But I ask you now, look at what is left. You still have each other. You still have a choice. The room began to quiet. Adrian pressed on. We have built something here that matters. The council was never about Earth. It was about all of us. About peace, trust, and unity. Koresh wants you to forget that. He wants you to bow to fear. Adrian pointed toward Koresh. But fear is not leadership. Fear is not strength. And it will not save you. He turned back to the council, speaking from his heart. We can stand together, or we can fall apart. That choice belongs to you now. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence stretched longer than Adrian could bear. Then, Joro of the Kethari stood slowly. His voice, deep and rough, echoed across the chamber. I believe Adrian Cross. Others followed. Leora of the Solari stepped forward, her glowing form shining brighter than ever. We stand with peace, she said. Rena of the Alkani joined them, her small voice cutting through the tension. We stand together. One by one, more members stood. Some hesitated, but in the end, the chamber filled with voices of agreement. Not all, but enough. Koresh's face darkened. He turned to his soldiers, but the council guards blocked their path. Koresh was no longer in control. Adrian stepped down from the podium. He walked toward Koresh, stopping just a few steps away. It's over, Adrian said. Koresh's jaw tightened. For the first time, Adrian saw a flicker of defeat in his eyes. Koresh turned slowly, raising his hands. So be it, he said through gritted teeth. The council guards moved in, surrounding Koresh and his soldiers. They took his weapons and led him from the chamber. Koresh walked with his head high, but Adrian knew he had lost. Adrian watched as the doors closed behind them. He let out a long breath, feeling the weight lift from his shoulders, but he knew the work was not finished. The council still stood, but they were shaken, unsure of what to do next. Adrian turned to face them once more. This is not the end, he said. This is our chance to begin again. Not with power or fear, but with trust. True trust. He knew it would not be easy. The council was broken, but not beyond repair. The choice was theirs now. Adrian hoped they would choose the right path. The council chambers were still. The shouting had stopped. The anger had faded, but the air remained heavy with tension. Koresh Vern was gone. His soldiers had been removed. The file showing his betrayal had been recorded and secured in the council archives. For the first time in weeks, no one argued. No one raised their voice. But silence did not mean peace. Adrian Cross stood once again on the central platform, looking out at the tired faces of the council members. Some looked down. Some whispered quietly among themselves. Others stared at Adrian with doubt still in their eyes. He knew the fight wasn't over. Removing Koresh had stopped the worst from happening, but it had not healed the damage. Joro of the Kethari stood slowly. His deep voice broke the silence. Koresh is gone, Joro said, but the council is still broken. Half our members have already left. Our fleets are pulling back. Trade has stopped. How we fix this? Adrian took a breath. He had asked himself the same question again and again. There was no easy answer. We can't bring back what we had, Adrian said honestly. But we can build something new, something stronger. The members shifted in their seats, listening. Adrian continued. For too long, the council depended on Earth to hold it together. Now we have a chance to prove we don't need one leader. We need each other. Leora, standing near the edge of the chamber, stepped forward. What do you suggest, Adrian? She asked softly. Adrian looked around the room. He had thought about this for days. Now was the time to speak. We rewrite the council charter, he said. We build a new agreement. One where all members are equal. No single world leads. No single fleet controls. We share the burden. We share the power. We share the future. The room grew quiet again. The idea hung in the air, uncertain but full of possibility. Rena of the Alkani stood next. And if others refuse to return, she asked, what if they don't believe in this new council? Adrian nodded. Let them go. We will show them through our actions that peace is still possible. When they see us working together, they will return in time. But we cannot wait for them. We must start now. Some members still looked unsure. Adrian understood their fear. Trust had been broken. It would take more than words to rebuild it. Joro spoke again. And who will lead this effort? Adrian looked at him, knowing the answer was clear. All of us, Adrian replied. Together. The chamber stayed silent for another long moment. Then Leora stepped forward and raised her hand, her glowing form brighter than before. I will sign this new charter, she said. Jorah nodded. So will the Kethari. Rena followed. And the Alkani. One by one, more members stood. Not all, but many. Enough to begin again. The council guards brought out the old charter. Adrian watched as they cleared the table, making space for something new. Adrian stepped down from the platform and stood with the others. They began writing the Unity Charter. Simple words, clear promises. No leader above another. Shared power. Shared duty. Shared hope. The work took hours. Words were argued, changed, agreed upon. But there was no shouting this time. Only steady, patient voices. By the end of the day, the new charter was complete. Adrian watched as each member pressed their seal onto the document. When his turn came, he felt a deep weight in his chest. Fear and hope mixing together. He placed his seal beside the others, knowing this was only the beginning. When the last seal was placed, the council stood as one. Adrian turned to face them one last time. Let this be the first step toward a better future, he said. The members nodded. Some smiled. Some looked tired, but all stood together. The council was reborn, not as a place of power, but as a place of unity. Adrian knew the road ahead would be long and hard. But for the first time in weeks, he felt hope. Earth was gone, but the council still stood. Adrian Cross stood in the observation tower of Vora Prime. From here, he could see the docking bays stretching far across the station. Ships from dozens of worlds floated in the void, arriving and leaving in steady waves. For the first time in weeks, the station felt alive again. The Unity Charter had changed everything. The council had not collapsed as many had feared. Instead, it had survived. Not because of power, not because of force, but because enough members had chosen to trust each other again. Word had already started to spread across the stars. Worlds that had pulled back were now watching carefully. Some had sent messages, not ready to rejoin but curious about the new council. Others had simply gone silent. Adrian knew it would take time. He didn't expect everyone to return right away. But they would come. He believed that now. The doors behind him opened softly. Leora entered, her light dimmed but warm. She stood beside him without speaking for a while. They both watched the stars. How long do you think it will last? She asked finally. Adrian thought for a moment before answering. As long as we're willing to fight for it, he said. Not with ships, not with weapons, but with trust. Leora nodded slowly. Many are still afraid. Adrian nodded too. I know, but fear doesn't have to win. They stood in silence again, knowing how much work still lay ahead. Behind them, the council chambers were being prepared for another meeting. This time, it wasn't about threats or power. It was about rebuilding, trade agreements, colony support, resource sharing. Real work. Hard work. Adrian knew that was where the true strength of the council would be built. Not in speeches or grand shows of force, but in the small, steady efforts to bring worlds together. He turned to Leora. I should get back. She smiled softly. I'll see you there. Adrian walked back toward the chambers. On the way, he passed Kai. The Yali officer stood near the entrance, speaking with the station's security chief. Kai had stayed, despite the risk. The council had offered him protection, and though many still watched him with suspicion, Adrian had made sure Kai was treated with respect. Kai caught Adrian's eye and gave a small nod. Adrian returned it without words. As Adrian entered the council chamber, he saw Joro, Rena, and many others already at their places. There were empty seats too, reminders of the members who had not yet returned. But Adrian didn't focus on the empty seats. He focused on the ones that were filled. He took his place among them. Not as a leader, not as Earth's voice, but as one voice among many. The council session began. For hours, they worked through the new plans. No one shouted. No one walked out. It wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was real. After the session ended, Adrian stepped out into the open halls again. He walked slowly, thinking of how far they had come. He knew he could leave now. His duty was done. Earth had given him no orders, no messages. But somehow, he felt more connected to this place than ever before. He stopped near the council emblem on the wall, a circle of stars linked together. It had once been just a symbol. Now, it felt like a promise. Adrian took a deep breath and smiled faintly. The galaxy was far from safe. The future was still uncertain. But for the first time in a long time, hope was stronger than fear. And that was enough.